What we do here is go back.
In December 2021, a user Carl92 posted a 17-second sample of audio to the website What's That Song? The audio contained an obvious pop-sounding song that he couldn't quite find the identity of. Over more than 3 years, the creator and origins of this song would become one of the internet's biggest lost media mysteries and arguably its most outlandish lost media search, particularly for something as simple as the identity of a song. The biggest irony being that in the only sample of this song, the main lyrics were, "Everyone knows that." Everyone knows that you got a period month. So the song was basically taunting the internet for more than 3 years. Yeah, everyone knows that. Don't you know this song, all you idiots? The internet was perplexed for years over this, to the point that an entire subreddit was devoted to the search. In many online lost media forums, but especially within this subreddit, many potential leads were discussed as well as many theories presented. The theories were pretty out there, one even suggesting that the song was entirely AI generated. However, as the origins of this song were discovered and revealed, a particular suggestion by a Reddit user would end up aging the best out of all of them. Now, to quickly backtrack, and trust me, this becomes very relevant later, the original user Carl92, who brought this to everyone's attention by posting the 17-second clip, originally shared how he was able to find a sample of EKT. Carl92 said he didn't remember the origin of the song, but that he rediscovered this sample between a bunch of very old files on a DVD backup. He then says, "Probably I was simply learning how to capture audio and there was a leftover." A strange thing that occurred in these comments was when Carl92 started to get oddly slightly defensive when a user simply asked if he was in his native country, Spain, at the time he did this recording sample of EKT. This was actually relevant, as finding out his location when he found this sample audio could help to find out where the audio itself originated. Carl92 replied to this by saying, does that matter? Do you think it could be a local band? English-speaking bands in Spain are rare, more so in the 80s. Anyway, I don't feel like giving that kind of detailed info. Carl92 eventually ended up commenting for the final time in the forum saying it was a dead end and he had no interest in finding out the origins of the song. He logged out of his account on the site and still hasn't been heard from since. Throughout the search, this was seen by the broader search community as presumably Carl92 coming to the realization that the actual song was much tougher than he once thought it would be to actually find, and that he simply just was not getting the results as quickly as he would have wanted. This ended up being partially true, as another reason for him quickly ghosting himself online in relation to this search ended up being revealed later on. Now, back to that suggestion in the EKT subreddit that aged like a fine wine. This user made a post about a possible candidate song by the band The Bubblegum Revolution. Now, the band's history indicates that it was involved in producing the music for, let's just say, adult films. However, this inadvertently became a promising new lead for searchers of the lost song. This meant that several searchers of the lost song ended up skipping through several adult films from the 80s trying to listen to the backing music in them. Or maybe both that and... So, just like one of the peanut factory workers finding the golden ticket, a person searching through the film Ulterior Motives was able to find the song. They also found the original composers Christopher St. Booth and Philip Adrian Booth listed in the end credits of the film. Brings a whole new meaning to the saying, keep it in the family. Christopher even reacted with amusement to the news of the massive search and eventual discovery of his song. The biggest issue with the song was the noises playing over the track. Ironically, there's only 17 seconds of the original scene while the song is playing that doesn't have these noises. That's the 17 seconds that was originally posted. Now, as for the song, it was quickly repaired and made safe for work by many savvy online users / part-time audio engineers who reposted it with better sound, and also its other sound effects removed. So after all that, what came of the poor embarrassed soul behind the username Carl92? We now know why he quickly backed out of the search and only supplied 17 seconds of the song. It's pretty much all but confirmed now that he personally sampled the only part of the song that wouldn't make its origins more obvious, and then posted that, hoping to get a quicker answer for what the song was. However, what he ended up inadvertently doing was creating one of the biggest mysteries in lost media history that the internet was too good to not fail on, and thus ended up solving the puzzle themselves. This is all in spite of Carl92 actually having the original answer of the song's origins all along. So this fella was essentially caught out by the entire internet. Ouch. Sheesh, Carl92, you could have just checked the end credits of the movie all along. The TVA Kids Fun Festival, or Pink Morning Cartoon as it was coined by its original uploader, was an animated public access children's morning show created and produced by the late Reverend Ella Flowers between the years 1998 and 2006 on the public access station she owned called WINJ-LP. This station operated out of and broadcasted to Columbus, Ohio in the US. In 2007 and 2009, YouTube user Jenkum Chick uploaded 3 clips from the show. They were poor quality VHS rips of 2 segments from an episode. One featured a song Everything's Coming Up Spring, and the other portion of an episode which was uploaded in 2 separate clips. The second upload, titled Pink Morning Cartoon, was just an extended version of the original upload featuring a similar sequence from the show. Due to the animation style, music, and voiceover work all being incredibly bootleg and bemusing to watch, it gave off a generally creepy and unsettling vibe.
Everything's coming up straight. Everything's coming up straight.
This was especially noticeable when hats on shelves appeared with teeth and started singing. Naturally, all these things led to the lost media community and the broader internet to become obsessed with this show when it somehow picked up steam in 2020. This is despite the original clips being on YouTube for more than 10 years and only having a few hundred views. After hundreds of hours of work from many different people attempting to find leads as to who may have produced the show, contact was somehow made with the daughter of the show's creator, and an interview / Q&A was then organised with the granddaughter of Flowers. It became clear that the creator Ella Flowers had passed away only a few years before her show gained mass attention through the internet. In the interview, Flowers' granddaughter revealed that the original master tapes of the show were stolen and were very likely destroyed out of spite by a cousin in their family. She notes that some production materials, i.e. original designs for the show, may still exist on floppy disks somewhere in the local access station's archives. However, other than that, the VHS copies were the only remnants of Pink Morning Cartoon's existence. So after all that still remains from the show are those original clips uploaded from 2007 and 2009. And in my opinion, those original master copy VHS tapes, which were stolen by that estranged cousin, are likely long gone. Slamfest 99 was a mock promotional wrestling event for Nintendo's new N64 game Super Smash Bros. That occurred on April 24th, 1999 at the MGM Grand Adventures theme park in Las Vegas, Nevada. The actual Nintendo wrestling match featured life-size costumes of Mario, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, and Pikachu actually wrestling in an actual ring as a fun means of promoting the new Super Smash Bros. Game. A good example of how lighthearted and fun this was supposed to be is the fact that the match was supposedly declared a draw at the end, with the announcer yelling, "Everybody wins!" after all 4 mascots had dragged the event on by essentially play fighting one another. The 17-minute event was live streamed, yes, live streamed in 1999 via Real Player G2. That's a very old way of live streaming. A replay of the event was supposedly available for viewing on its stream site for those who may have missed the live event. However, it's completely unknown as to how long the clip was up for on the site which hosted it. Since it aired in 1999, no amateur footage of the event, and especially the video of its original live stream, have ever resurfaced online. What has made Slamfest 99 so obscure was the last-minute decision by Nintendo Nintendo at the time to limit the amount of outgoing publicity regarding the event. This is due to a certain tragedy taking place at a high school just days earlier. This drastically limited the reach of such an event, almost to the point that it was probably just Nintendo employees who knew it was taking place, as well as some other hardcore fans who had connections. The search for Slamfest 99 properly picked up in the lost media community in around 2020. Over the course of a couple of years, many people were able to locate articles from old web pages and newspapers which helped paint a better picture of this event and what actually took place that day. Despite many articles and new details to do with Slamfest 99 being discovered throughout 2020 and 2021, the search was technically still cold, as what everyone really wanted was a person to come forward posting the actual live stream, or better still, an amateur camcorder recording from someone in the crowd that day. But even still to this day, that has never happened. But hang on, what about the crisp, high quality photos I've been showing whilst talking about this? They were posted in early 2023 and were taken by an Associated Press photographer who was there that day to cover the event. These photos are by far the best thing the lost media community has found in relation to Slamfest 99, and are likely as good as it's ever going to get when it comes to found media from the event, as the odds of a live stream from 1999 ever being successfully archived by anyone are quite slim. The ability to preserve footage shared through the internet just wasn't properly developed yet, even for a well-known video, let alone an obscure Nintendo stream. In 2004, on the Japanese image board site 2channel, anonymous users were discussing commercials that terrified them as children. One comment, however, described a commercial that featured two white humanoid figures on top of a black background, continually making a sort of clanking noise. The user recalled that the commercial said, "On Earth, one person dies every 2 seconds." The figures kept disappearing and reappearing with that clanking sound, also repeating as the figures repeatedly flashed. The commercial became colloquially known as Hitogata, which is a Japanese word that translates to humanoid. Since 2004, the search for this commercial was continuous throughout the internet, and it grew larger and larger, becoming a modern-day media urban legend, as there was no way of proving it to be real, other than what numerous numbers of people remembered it as. On sites such as 5channel, for example, it was discussed so often that users were prohibited to discuss it when other unidentified commercials were being discussed. People's recollection of the commercial differed. Some people believe it had white figures on top of a black background. Others believed the figures featured in the foreground and in the background was a still image of a railway track, as can be seen in this 2004 recreation. This meant that some people believed it to be a campaign for railway safety in Japan. Now, it's important to point out that this search properly ignited throughout the lost media community in 2019. Around then, an On the Hunt flyer was created in an attempt to assist the discovery of this commercial. Despite this flyer and many people discussing the commercial online since 2004, no such commercial has ever been found. As of 2022, the general comment consensus on a Hitogata online thread was that it was simply people misremembering key details from several different sources together. As this search is now coming on 2 decades, it is generally now considered to be legend instead of truth, as this commercial's only leg to stand on is the hearsay of people who are remembering something that just cannot yet be confirmed to have ever existed at all. In 1981, it is said that in Portland, Oregon, USA, there was an arcade game that hundreds, if not thousands of people would flock to a local arcade to play. However, it only existed for a limited time, but in this short time frame, the game was so popular and addicting that video game enthusiasts and anyone who ever played it for that matter just couldn't get enough of it. The game was your typical space shooter, except it featured many random geometric patterns, strange shapes, psychedelic images, an unsettling soundtrack, and even subliminal messages. This would cause the player to fall into sort of a hypnotic state. Anyone who played Polybius would be psychologically affected by it. They would experience amnesia, night terrors, anxiety, aggression, and insomnia. The game was said to be so addictive that players would line up around the block and get into physical fights in order to play it. Men in black suits would even be seen servicing the game in the few arcades it featured in. They were even said to be collecting data from the machines and even using them as surveillance. So after everything I just said, is there any evidence to support this game's existence? No. Many recreations of the arcade game have been independently manufactured, yet no original units of Polybius from the 80s have ever been found. This is a legend that has carried on for many years and has been spoken about at great length. However, no concrete evidence of its actual existence has ever been revealed. Many people believe it to be fake, however, people also believe Polybius was misremembered for another arcade game that was highly addictive. The thing is, the FBI did actually do an investigation in the early 80s that looked into the addictive powers of arcade games, and men in black suits were seen by hundreds of witnesses to be servicing many arcade machines at various different arcades around the US. And they were doing that. They were actually collecting data on the games and analysing how long certain games will be played for by certain players. Were they analysing a specific arcade machine called Polybius that was specifically designed to be the most addictive game and to also exist for a very limited amount of time? Probably not. This legend probably stems from the old two truths and a lie. Men in suits were servicing machines and the FBI were analysing data from those machines. However, there was no purpose-built MK Ultra style arcade game called Polybius. It's a classic example of a story lasting for a long time and continuing for many years, even into the advent of the internet. And of course, because it's been a story for such a long time, it must be true, but it simply rather exists as a lost media urban legend. Cracks, also known as Crack Master, was a Sesame Street short that aired on December 31st, 1975. In 2008, a man named John Armand posted this description about the short. A girl is sitting on her bed and starts to look closely at the cracks on her wall. She makes out shapes. One is a camel and comes to life. She climbs aboard the camel and goes for a ride. She then sees a monkey who is very happy to see her. But then the music changes and the crack monster is revealed. It yells out and it crumbles into nothing. The girl then snaps out of her imagination and gleefully sings, "Camel, thank you for the ride. I'll come and see you again sometime." This post would spark what became a massive search for what was to many an extremely infamous and fascinating piece of lost media. What made this search and its popularity a thing was many more people chiming in with near identical descriptions of the short, meaning that it was indeed likely real. The Children's Television Workshop were able to confirm the episode's air date and exactly when it came up during its episode of Sesame Street. However, despite contacts from people such as avid lost media searcher Diekite, someone from the PR department of the Sesame Workshop said in an email response, "Sorry, we will not be able to release the segment at all." Before this, however, the original person who posted about the search received a fax stating, "We have the copy." And then on a Sunday, a DVD was hand-delivered to his letterbox containing the missing short. John Armand was, however, told to never publicly share the clip, which is what he relayed to people online. However, he bizarrely did claim at one point to Diekite that it cannot be released until he completes a documentary about the search for cracks, but that contradicted his original claim that he was told to never publicly share cracks. Eventually, Diekite received an email with no sender attached. The email contained a video file. The file was cracks. With no warnings to never release it, he posted it online, rendering the clip found.
While laying in her bed, the cracks overhead more and more looked like a camel. So they happily skipped into where they'd never been and in corner found a giant crack. "Who are you?" they said. The crack just growled instead and made himself look very big and mean. He said, "I am Crack Master." But just then the wall plaster began to crumble to the floor, and where the monster stood were only beams of wood. He destroyed himself trying to be mean. "Camel, thank you for the ride. The rain has stopped outside. We'll go and see the cracks again someday."
It was later revealed that Cracks was digitized from its archives and was sitting in Sesame Street's online databases. As it turned out, any employee at Sesame Workshop had access to these video databases, meaning it was likely a random employee from the company who leaked the short to John Armand, trying to seem extremely cool and mysterious with his facts, as well as hand-delivering the DVD which contained the short. So, in an extremely bizarre yet amazing turn of events, Cracks was found, and it is still to this day one of the internet's greatest lost media discoveries. news. Oh Paradive Sally, or Clockman, as it was coined by the internet, was a paper cutout animated short released in communist Czechoslovakia in 1976. It was also once one of the biggest lost media mysteries throughout such communities on the internet. What made this short so sought after for so many people in lost media circles was its fascinating original description by a user Commander Santa from 2012, posted in a thread on the forum The Flood. He described a character he coined the Clockman, abducting a little boy and taking him to places he did not want to go. Despite the boy's wishes to go home, the Clockman just ignored him and continued to take him to many scary places. He believed the short to have aired on the Nickelodeon show Pinwheel. Eventually, a user on 4chan chimed in and claimed he also remembered the short. However, his description was somewhat different to Commander Santa's. A notable detail he was able to add was that he claimed the animation featured poorly made dolls and was stuttery. Another notable detail he added was that he claimed the Clockman's head peeked through the clock on the wall as though it were a window. He pushes the clock open like a door. Many people in the lost media community started to believe both of these two posts weren't describing a real short and that they must have confused it with something else. But then, a post from the website The Animation Nation dated way back to 2004 was also discovered, and in that post there was a description that eerily resembled those from the previous two posts. In his description, he says it was about a girl who lost her red shoes and asked the local wizard for help. He helps her, but told her she had to tell her mum. She goes home and doesn't, hoping the wizard would forget. However, the music then changes, and the narrator says, but the wizard did not forget. He then suddenly pops out of her clock and steals her away. After the previous doubters in the lost media community read this post, they began to change their tune and started to realize that it was in fact a real short. Despite this post sparking belief in the search, for many years nobody could find the short. Countless efforts from many people in the lost media community brought up nothing. Then one day, 5 years since the search began, a lost media wiki user, Nitrate Nerd, was doing his own Clockman research in the Worldwide Library Catalog website WorldCat. After looking through several pages, he found a listing for a short titled Sally, which featured a YouTube link. He viewed the short, and lo and behold, everything that occurred in it closely somewhat matched the descriptions of the three people who recalled the short in those now very old separate posts. Clockman was found on YouTube, except it wasn't in English. But then, 1 month later, an educational film preservation archive known as AV Geeks supplied an English dub from their archives. Once this was released, the search was finally over, and Clockman ended up being arguably the internet's most satisfying lost media discovery. On November 22nd, 2011, a DVD was listed on Amazon.com that was available for the low price of $10.49 USD. It was titled A Day with Spongebob SquarePants, the movie. The DVD cover that came with the listing featured a completely different shaped version of SpongeBob's house, as well as a kid jumping in midair. However, the itty bitty detail which made this notable was the simple fact that this listing was the only mention of this film literally anywhere. This was the film's description that was featured in the Amazon listing.
In this mockumentary, SpongeBob lives above ground like all Hollywood superstars. Afraid that SpongeBob is becoming old news, his boss runs a contest called Spend a Day with SpongeBob. The contest makes SpongeBob the talk of the town, as thousands of kids enter to win. The lucky winner is Seth, and he is ecstatic about his day with SpongeBob. However, the day becomes a roller coaster ride, as things don't go quite the way they planned.
As SpongeBob-related lost media was already an interest of a large part of the internet, this mystery began to spiral out of control, all because of lost media wiki user LarryInc64 starting this by creating a page for it on the website The Lost Media Wiki. As time went on and this search caught like wildfire, the obsession with it went out of control. It began with 4chan finding a stock image of the boy on the front cover through a reverse image search, then someone uploaded the fake intro music for the film. Insanely irritating. And finally, of course, one bullshit artist just had to edit an old Twitter post from 2012, changing the text in his tweet to read, "Watching a day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie." The original date of the old tweet stayed, making it appear that this guy was the first person to mention the film anywhere. And, of course, That worked! It spread the mystique of this film, and more people believed it was real because, well, they needed to believe it was real. Also, on top of that, although there was obviously no evidence of it being a real film, i.e. actual clips from it, there really was also no evidence of it not being a real film either. Now, you're going to have to bear with me on this analysis, as I'm attempting to give a description on what I believe truly happened here. There's no way of proving beyond a shadow of a doubt what A Day with Spongebob SquarePants the movie is, so that's why I'm going to give a sort of educated hypothesis. Everyone who claimed to be associated with the production of this film or anything to do with this film other than these two individuals were flat out liars and trolls. Many people came forward during this search claiming to have worked with the film's distribution company Regal Films. They were lying. A man who wasn't willing to share his actual name, instead calling himself Mr. Orange, did an audio interview about the film, claiming to have been the original person involved in its production and commissioning the knockoff drawing of SpongeBob's house. It's painfully obvious listening to it that this person is suspect to be trolling in an attempt to be linked to this search and gain meaningless attention. And not to mention the fact that he was only willing to offer the first 5 pages of the script? This is something that wouldn't have taken that much time or effort to materialize. It looks as though the reality of A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie was that these two people, Jason Boritz and Lorenzo Holly, were involved in a money laundering scheme to do with this title and other fake titles, as well as other scams and criminal activity. It was seemingly a money laundering scam where they both attempted to collect money from DVD orders for fake documentaries and mockumentaries on famous people, as well as known intellectual properties such as SpongeBob. They would use different film production companies for several of their films that all somehow tied into Regal Films. Not just that, but Lorenzo Holly would use an alias name when listing fake distributors for Regal Films. This was easily noticed as comments on the Regal Films page referred to him as Lorenzo. The cherry on top was that their website purely existed to steal the sensitive information of any visitors, hence why it had a Trojan virus on it. One of the two scammers was finally contacted for an interview after his phone number was located on a Skype account created for one of his many scams. The person who contacted him was cleverly disguised as one of his scams, which is why he answered the call and agreed to talk. The phone call was recorded. Before this, a previous attempt to contact him through another person failed after he told someone to pass on a message to the person that was originally trying to contact him. The message was to never speak to him again. Lorenzo Holly's reaction to his scams being mentioned by another person, in particular his Trojan virus designed website, seemed to be a reaction of embarrassment and awkwardness that he had been found out. It didn't seem like a reaction of just mere confusion. The person interviewing him was clearly using an age-old interview technique, where the interviewer accommodates the person's fumbling and stumbling when being asked simple questions. This is a technique that allows the other person to let their own words fall flat on their face and come out of their mouth as obvious BS.
And there have been like allegations of like Trojan viruses on your website or something. What was that about?
On Trojan web on the website, I don't know. Like, I just can't. This is the first time I'm hearing anything about that. I haven't heard anything about a Trojan virus on the website.
Could it just be a false diagnosis on the virus antivirus thing?
Yeah, that could be it. Or which website are you referring to?
Regalfilms.com, I think it was.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't heard of any viruses on that website.
When Lorenzo Holly's friend and partner in scams, Jason Boritz, was phoned and asked about this, he cursed angrily and loudly at the person on the other end of the phone line, and then just hung up, although this wasn't recorded. Lorenzo was also asked about this in his interview, and, well, he very clearly felt awkward about his partner in crime's reaction, quickly covering for him by saying this.
And one of your colleagues, Jason Boritz, his name was, he's been seen as somewhat abrasive.
Yeah. What did he, what do you mean?
One of my colleagues in the group asked, hey, is this Jason Boritz? And he just flipped out on her.
Oh, no, Jason is a very, very nice guy. Maybe she just brought him on a bad day.
In the end, if you properly analyze the mystery of A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants the movie, you can decide to take an alternate approach to this story. This involves doing a little bit of questioning and using common sense instead of obsessing over wanting to view something that doesn't exist and never existed except for more than a fake DVD cover and description. When you search for the truth rather than what you want and need, you realize that this entire thing is just two people involved in criminal activity and money laundering scams. It's a bittersweet ending to a long mystery, but I guess that's how lost media searches can end sometimes. Metropolis was a 1927 German science fiction silent film directed by Fritz Lang. The film is still widely regarded by many due to its incredible sequences and special effects that were revolutionary at the time of its release. After its Berlin premiere, the film was reduced to its original 2.5-hour running time to run for as short as 90 minutes in an attempt for the film to appeal to an international audience. This meant that many plot-relevant scenes were removed as well as characters which were crucial to the story. For more than 75 years, the original 153-minute version of Metropolis was deemed to be lost. However, in 2008, a highly damaged copy of the film was uncovered in Argentina by a film collector who somehow got a hold of the original 153-minute cut. The collector who had the film in their possession had been located due to film historians from the area finding it strange that theatre employees remembered having to wait 2.5 hours for the film to run through. The film was badly damaged, so it was transferred onto safety film because nitrate film burns quite easily. On top of this, the copy of Metropolis also suffered a loss of quality due to it being printed on 16mm positive stock, whereas the original negatives were shot on 35mm film. One of the biggest film restoration attempts in history took place, and so in 2010, Kino Films released Metropolis on DVD as 99% complete of the original film. It was titled The Complete Metropolis. However, 2 of the scenes were very badly damaged and couldn't be restored. It's amazing that during such time, the film was considered lost, yet Argentinian filmgoers had no idea that they were watching a version of the film that nobody else had the chance to witness. All of those lost scenes were being viewed at actual theatres, all while everyone else considered that original cut to be lost forever. The Mr. Potato Head Show was a live-action puppetry children's TV show that aired between 1998 and 1999 on the US network Fox Kids. The show was infamously cancelled by Hasbro in 1999 for not selling enough toys, after its first series ran for 13 episodes. The creators of the show went on to make a direct-to-video movie that featured the show's main characters sharing their thoughts on the show's cancellation, seemingly in such a way for the program's creators to get one back on Hasbro.
Cancelled? We've been cancelled? I can't believe it!
I cannot believe it either.
Can you believe it? Because you're kind of looking like you can believe it.
No, this is my I can't believe it face.
Well, I can't believe it!
I'm gonna break it to the others in small groups. We don't want a riot on our hands.
No, we don't want that.
The movie was mainly a clip show of moments from the TV show depicted as flashbacks. As lost media became more topical throughout the internet in the 2010s, this show came to light as just one of the 13 episodes as well as that direct-to-video movie could be found. This screenshot also indicates that 4 of the 13 episodes were available at one point, which perhaps contradicts what the Lost Media wiki page says about this. Either way, the show was mostly lost. On December 18th, 2016, all 13 episodes were uploaded to YouTube by the user Hod Gaming. He claimed that he managed to find the episodes on a sketchy website on page 53 of Google. All along, the episodes of this show were hidden deep in Google, unable to be found, but yet just sitting there the entire time the show was deemed as lost. It's so strange to me that nobody knew or could figure out that they were right there on that website. During that time period, the internet presumed the show to be almost completely lost. It's lost media that was sitting right there online. It just needed one user to share it on YouTube and render it found. In 2023 on the subreddit r/lostmedia, a user Jedi Rain stated that in 2016 he found a 16mm film reel at an estate sale. The film canister was marked restricted. This Reddit user purchased it and eventually digitized the film reel. Upon viewing the footage, it was revealed to contain never before seen footage of the Normandy invasion. This historic event was the Allied forces invading and freeing France from Nazi Germany in World War II. This of course is one of the more historic days in human history. The Reddit user stated, "As far as I can tell, this is unseen footage. The film appears to show the aftermath of the initial invasion of Normandy. The big question is, how did a film reel that was marked restricted end up being available for purchase at an estate sale? It's just as luck would have it, the person who purchased this was also happy to digitize it and share it online. Without all of this somehow happening, it likely never could have been found." Freaky Flickers, The Quest for the Golden Flicker, was meant to be a CGI animated animated film directed, written and animated by Kerry Howe. The film was based on the Freaky Flickers toy line. Its general premise was Arch, the pirate, and his crew of flickers going on a quest to find the Golden Flicker in an attempt to pay off the mortgage debt of their creator, Doc Flick. Their creator materialized the plastic figures himself, giving them personalities and bringing them to life so he could have some assistance around the lab. During an extremely exhausting and stressful week of animating the film, everyman Kerry Howe was attempting to meet one of the deadlines on a portion of production for the film. His workstation kept on crashing during test renders of the film's animation. As this was his only 64-bit machine, he had no choice but to keep on using it. As the weekend approached in his long week of animating, Kerry decided he would continue working overnight. He was so exhausted by the end of the week that he decided to lay down to rest despite the film's imminent deadline. Another editor was working on the film in his living room at the time. He awoke to the sound of his house being dead silent, and upon getting up, he realized the project computers that he was using to work on the film had been stolen. So too were the film's backup hard drives. Kerry detached a letter from the wall which explained that funding for the project had fallen through and the film was being shut down. Kerry then slumped into his desk chair for several hours. To this day, the suspected people who stole the computers have still not released the test renders and animations which had been completed to that point. What you were watching during this segment was the film's trailers, which had already been released during the film's animation process. Not a lot of people know that was a panel-style comedy game show that aired on the Australian public access network Channel 31 Melbourne in early 2013. Young Sam, yes, me, watched and recorded episodes of this show in March and April of 2013. I found it while channel surfing one night, and being someone who was fascinated in preserving everything obscure, I pressed the record button during episode 2 on the off chance that this show was somewhat worth saving for any reason. The following week, I tuned into the show with the record button being pressed once again. However, I was greeted at the beginning of the third episode with this most bizarre intro.
Hi, I'm England's Neil Sinclair, and we'd like to thank you for watching Not a Lot of People Know That. Now, you may have noticed that some of the episodes look a bit different to some of the other episodes, and that's because somebody broke into our filming venue and stole the external hard drive with 4 of the episodes on. So we had to ask everyone to come back and refilm them. Now, that Gravity Roustabout probably got $50, and that's not much when you consider the effort that we put in. Now, everyone in community television works for free. The whole crew had to come back and film everything. All the guests had to come back and film everything. And so this is a big thanks to them for coming back and saying the same jokes twice and filming the same jokes twice.
Of course, as a fan of lost media, even back then as a 13-year-old, I was interested in this story. Only a week or so later, I went to an event at the media youth company Sin Media. This company had an affiliation with the youth media company that produced Not a Lot of People Know That RMI TV. Just by sheer chance, one of the people at this event was a guest contestant on the show. She explained to me in person, and with great enthusiasm, just how annoying it was for her and the other guests of her episode to be messaged and told that the show had been stolen, and every joke, one-liner and keynote on the script had to be repeated word for word during an entire reshoot of her episode, as well as the other 3 episodes that were on the stolen hard drives. This contestant, Beck, filmed the first version of her episode months earlier, and she kind of indicated to me that the process of filming it the first time around wasn't easy either, so to have to go back and do it all over again wasn't fun. To this day, the stolen hard drives that featured the raw audio and files of episodes 3 to 6 still have not been recovered. Back in 2013, they made the mistake of not backing up these episodes and leaving them in the on-site editing suite where they had filmed the show. And given the amount of unknown volunteers that frequented this space, a theft of hard drives that weren't cheap was never off the cards. On the plus side, when they reshot these episodes, they were able to record them in a much nicer and far more professional purpose-built set that was located in the RMI TV studios in Melbourne, Australia. This is as opposed to doing the show in what just looked like a crappy room they were hiring out. When I made my first video on this topic back in 2016, I sent it to this guy, one of the main people in charge of the show, Neil Sinclair. As you can see from this DM, he was shocked that anyone remembered this show and its corresponding story, and he was genuinely satisfied that someone recognized his work. As am I when other lost media YouTubers cover this topic that I brought to the attention of the lost media community many years ago. Back in the days when I used to make Lost Media specials on my OG channel Sam's Movies, one of the most interesting topics I ever covered was undoubtedly Australia's naughtiest home videos. This show was never supposed to even be a series, it was merely only ever intended to have just the one episode. However, on that fateful night in 1992, something happened which would entrench this show into worldwide television folklore. So down here in the old country back in 1992, some genius decided, hey, why don't we take the show we licensed from the US, which we have been airing with no problems at all since 1990, and flip the brand of funniest home videos on its head to give it an extremely X-rated and cringy version. Yeah, that'll be a good idea. So yes, in 1992, the people from Funniest Home Videos somehow got their hands on a bunch of rude videos which couldn't be aired on the family version of the show, and compiled them into a 1-hour special. The show was pre-recorded in one very dodgy studio.
I just heard this is a record audience for Channel 9. About 160 more than the room is supposed to hold. If there's a fire, you're all gonna die.
Which isn't even an exaggeration, that literally would have happened. And so a willing audience got to sit there and react to a bunch of naughty videos. Little did they know that when the show they attended the taping of eventually went to air, it would get an arousing reception. But the reception wasn't remembered from what the audience thought of the show. Oh no, it was remembered from what the head of the TV network which aired it, the 9 Network, thought of it. Who's on the phone? What does Kerry Packer want this late at night? Here, I'll take the call. Hello, Mr. Packer, how can I help you? Get that shit off the air! I'm sorry, Mr. Packer, you want the show removed? Yes! Get that disgusting and offensive shit off the air immediately, or everyone in that control room will be in the unemployment line tomorrow! Right away, Mr. He's gone. Okay. And so, just like that, only 59% into its broadcast, this announcement came up on screen as the show went into a commercial break.
We apologize for this interruption. Unfortunately, a technical problem prevents us continuing our scheduled program for the moment. In the meantime, we bring you a brief alternative program.
Film before a live studio audience.
An episode of Cheers then went to air, replacing the scheduled program, and the show joined rare air as it became one of just 2 shows ever, Turn On being the other one, to be cancelled during its first and only episode. The difference with Turn On was it was aired in several parts of the US in full before other parts in the US could cancel it mid-episode. So I'll just briefly explain the history behind my family watching this show. My own mother watched the original broadcast in 1992 and can recall the announcement of technical difficulties coming up on the screen, followed by the episode of Cheers. However, in 2008, the 9 Network decided to re-air the show, this time in its entirety, excluding a segment which picked on fat kids, and I ended up watching around 10 minutes of the one-off re-airing as an 8-year-old back in 2008. So my mother and I watched the only 2 broadcasts of this show on television, with my mum watching just half of the show and me watching the re-aired full version. But as an 8-year-old, I got bored pretty quickly and changed the channel. I know, hard to believe an 8-year-old wouldn't be shocked by what they saw, but I genuinely just didn't care. So in case you don't know, the entire episode can be seen online with a simple YouTube search. But what urged me to talk about this once more was the fact that the original interrupted broadcast cannot be found anywhere online. Only small clips of the show being taken from the air can be found on YouTube. They are in extremely poor quality and were uploaded years ago. So the original broadcast of the show is technically still lost. The re-airing of the full episode can be seen online except for a portion that picks on obese kids that I mentioned earlier. We cannot be sure if that clip was aired in the first half of the episode that went to air in 1992, or if it was part of the unaired portion. We may never know. Or will we? I honestly don't know if we'll ever know. If anyone out there in the Lost Media community can find a way to get their hands on the original Australia's Naughtiest Home Videos 1992 9 Network broadcast with the episode of Cheers that plays after, then please get in touch with me or Sam's Movies. They're both one and the same thing. Or just upload the episode online. That would be awesome. It is a very hard recording to find though, I'll be honest. Now I did once actually get in touch with the uploader of the only clips online from the show's original broadcast. I asked her if she could upload the full VHS tape tape that shows the broadcast, and she told me in a YouTube reply, "The tape is very damaged." Despite my reply saying that it didn't matter and I would personally pay for the postage of the tape and then transfer it to MP4 myself, I know, I'm a geek, she never replied. So sadly, the show just remains lost. Super Mario 64 Big Star Secret was a roughly 4-minute long video that was supposedly uploaded to YouTube sometime in 2007. The video was one of many popular screamer videos that were rampant at the time. A video that was designed to lead the viewer into a false sense of security before a ridiculous jump scare occurs. I vividly remember my first time being pranked with one of these when I was 7 years old, and needless to say, I was horrified. Unlike your more popular screamer videos, this video, however, ended up becoming far more obscure as it was deleted from YouTube user LotusMan17's channel in late 2012. The last known archive of the video showed it had garnered 698,000 views. So what is currently known about this? Well, the video is crudely edited with Windows Movie Maker 2 and featured a shoddy low quality recording of a computer screen that was done with a flip phone. The viewer was led to believe this was step-by-step instructions on how to find a hidden cheat in the game Super Mario 64. After minutes of steps being told to the viewer, the final step was something along the lines of press A on this wall. After this step is given, a zombie jump scare from the infamous K-Fee coffee commercial appears on the screen. Believe it or not, this old screamer video was once, albeit for a very short time, a genuine search in the lost media community. In a YouTube commentary video, one person carefully detailed his childhood memory of trying to find cheats for the game, but ended up being terrified. Years later, however, he joined the search, and just like many others, finding his childhood memory once again was his obsession for a brief period of time. Despite that search effort, all that has been found to this date is 2 reaction videos on the screamer itself. The first one features the first 8 seconds and the last 20 seconds of the screamer, and the second, which was found on May 30th, 2024, has no sound at all, yet does contain more footage from the original video. The thing is, as you have all likely already seen, in both reaction videos you can barely make out the video that's playing on the monitors in the distance, even though it is confirmed to be the real video. The original video could still exist on somebody's old hard drive somewhere, but for now, it still lingers to many as a lost media video that painfully needs to be found. Yes, what you are looking at is real. Mulligrubs is an extremely obscure case of lost media from Australia. Except it's a different kind of lost media, as there is evidence that it was archived, yet to anyone who doesn't have access to its archives, it is still almost completely lost. This was a morning children's show that had 550 episodes produced between the years 1988 and 1996. And yes, what you are looking at was the main presenter of the show, played by this woman Diana Kidd. This presenter is called the Mulligrub, and to many now adult Australians, it purely exists as a terrifying childhood memory. To some, however, it exists as happy memories. It really depends on the person who viewed it. As an Australian kid myself, I do not remember ever viewing this show as a kid. It was way past my time. However, I do remember as a kid watching the few clips that still exist from it on YouTube. This was what I clicked on.
When I visited the museum, we saw some little green frogs in a big glass tank. I think I'd like to be a frog today. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit.
Why was this made? I love the Wikipedia explanation of this show. This show is best remembered for the face made up of just eyes, eyebrows, nostrils, and a mouth on a blue screen. Just reading that out made me feel queasy. Really though, anyone from outside of Australia, even after reading this Wikipedia page, would never believe that this is actually a real show. And honestly, when it comes to the content itself, after watching the few clips that still exist from the show on YouTube, you pretty much generally get the idea. So even if it is still mostly lost media, is there really a need to watch all 550 episodes? Well, it doesn't matter, because despite whether there is a need or isn't a need for this to ever be found, 430 of the 550 episodes are kept archived in the National Film and Sound Archive in Australia and have been there for some time. If you search up the show on the website for this archive, it will literally give you every single page that includes brief details on all of those episodes. Yet, not even one of those has ever been posted online or shared back into the public domain. It's lost media that is confirmed to exist, yet anyone who wishes to view it has no ability to. So does that mean that it's still lost? I don't know, but what I do know is I will never sleep properly again. All the way back in September 2007, my folks and I went on a family holiday to Tasmania, Australia. One of the towns we stayed at during our trip was Launceston. I was only 8 years old, but I still remember staying in a literal dark brick castle that was converted into a hotel. Upon arriving at the hotel, we had some time to kill before heading to dinner, so we turned on the TV. We flicked to one of those pay TV channels that the hotel offers to guests as part of their stay. It was the kind of channel that features a ton of ad breaks that are pretty much every 2 minutes, as it was likely the kind of sports broadcast where commercials are a constant occurrence. We were all surprised and amused to see that in every ad break there was the same ad 3 times in 2.5 minutes. And in the space of 25 minutes of watching TV, I think we saw the same ad more than 10 times. It featured a man who was struggling from nausea and flu symptoms, and in the commercial he says, "And when I'm struggling from these symptoms, I feel like I'm on the edge of a building." And as he was saying that, he was swaying back and forth on the edge of a skyrise building on the top floor roof of it. I recall all of us constantly laughing at not only how dumb this was, but how ridiculous it seemed to play the same commercial over 10 times in not even half an hour. And then during the rest of that trip, and since then, our family has quoted that commercial constantly. All I know is this commercial aired sometime in September 2007 on an Australian pay TV network, presumably a sports or perhaps even an ongoing news channel. Despite searching through numerous commercial compilations from Australia of the time, I still haven't been able to find it. I'm going to keep attempting new ways to search for this ad and gather new leads. However, for now, this lasts in the memory for me as lost media from my childhood that I badly want to find again. What you just watched was a commercial for the women's deodorant brand Impulse that aired on Australian television all the way back during 1993. You're probably thinking, Sam, what's the lost media here? You just showed the full commercial. Well, you see, the lost media here is actually the song that plays during the commercial.
I wanna be your date with destiny. Can't help thinking that you're holding out on me. You never know until you try me. Some girls won't you walk straight by me. I wanna be your date with destiny.
For years, I've wanted to know what this song actually is. Before I began any attempt to search for the name of it, I simply used Shazam. However, it yielded no results, of course. A little over a month ago, I posted the song to Was That Song, a website that helps people discover the name of a song that they are unable to locate by allowing them to upload the only sample they have of a song they have been searching for. I posted my sample audio of the song, and although it was 10 times better sounding than most of the songs that had been identified just before and after my song had been uploaded, the song was never identified. It got 107 plays and 4 followers, but nobody had a clue what it was. I then decided to email the brand that created the commercial more than 30 years ago. They responded to my email with information that helped me learn why I couldn't find the name of this song. Basically, in short, they told me that they have always either outsourced stock music or paid a fee to the creator, and that they specialize in short jingle ad music that is not very well known, which they can freely utilize on their advertising. This basically confirmed to me that the song was likely purpose made for this commercial by an unlisted artist who purely made jingles for commercials, and that this 30-second sample of the song is likely all that exists of it. Which is kind of disappointing, as I of course would have loved to hear an extended version of it. Perhaps there's a way to figure out who made this by searching through artists of 90s jingles for Australian commercials. At this moment though, that's all I have so far figured out about the mysterious origins of the Date with Destiny song. Friday Night Games was a 2006 Australian game show that was created as a spin-off to the hugely popular 2005 version of Big Brother Friday Night Live. The show had 10 episodes, and its general premise was celebrities on 2 different teams pitted up against each other in wacky, somewhat ridiculous games for the purpose of entertainment. The show was made because the network it aired on, Channel 10, saw the potential of high ratings after the aforementioned Big Brother Friday Night Live show, which aired the previous year, managed to generate a tick over 2 2 million viewers Australia-wide every week. The thing was, Australia's population at the time was only around 22 million people. Friday Night Games, however, did not reach anywhere near these ratings, probably due to the lack of affiliation with the reality TV show Big Brother. Although it's unknown what the ratings for the show were, this is backed up enough by the spin-off show not being renewed for a second season. Big Brother Friday Night Live, however, would continue for a further 3 years. Now, when it comes to lost media searches, this is my personal magnum opus. It's gotten to the point where I've just about given up on this show due to how improbable it is to find episodes. The first episode I found was from a game show collector that was sent to me in early 2012. Since then, I've found just one other episode, and even that was incomplete. It's around 80% of the grand final show. This episode was uploaded to YouTube in April 2023, and I found it in July 2023. It's also the last episode of the series. The reason why this show is so sought after for me is because I've pretty much been obsessed with the main version of the show since I was 7 years old when I watched it on TV. The fact that every episode of the Big Brother version of the show had been readily available on YouTube since 2009 has only furthered my obsession with this TV show. I know, to most people it's objectively a stupid show, but I kinda grew up on this shit when there really was nothing else for a kid to watch back then. Since I was about 10, I've known this spin-off existed, but I never really cared about wanting to watch it until I had exhausted my viewing of the original series. That was when my search for Friday Night Games began. Over the years, I've contacted archivists asking them to keep a lookout for the show. I had found game show collectors who had listed it in their collections, but the catch was that they were either impossible to contact or, even in the worst case imaginable, one collector told me that he had thrown out his recordings of the show many years ago despite his collection of nearly all the episodes still being listed in a website online. It's fair to say this was a pretty significant body blow in my search for the show, as he had all the episodes on VHS tapes in his house at one point. Will I ever find any more episodes of this? I'm hopeful I'll eventually get my hands on all 10 episodes, as recently the show's lead production coordinator responded to a message of mine and claimed he gave all the master copies of episodes 2 to 10 to the people at Network 10 Sydney. So all I have to do is try my best to pester their archives. Honestly, this show being lost has kind of been a blessing in a way to my current career aspirations, as it kept me interested in lost media. Who knows, without this show still being something I'm after, this channel might not have ever existed. Much like Friday Night Games, Friday Night Download was a show which featured a similar title, the exact same 3 panel members that hit back at one another with one-liners.
You get addicted to it, and I've been doing a little bit of research. I haven't done this much research since high school, so I'm ready to go.
Did you go to school?
Yeah, I finished year 9. That was it, but I'm ready to go again tonight.
Year 9 were the hardest 3 years of my life.
If I had $50,000, I'd go to Super Cheap Auto and I'd turn my Datsun 180B into a rocket.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You don't even have a Datsun 180B, Fitzy.
Yeah, but if I did have $50,000, I'd buy 50 of them.
And also, it's still lost media. However, that's where the similarities between the shows end. This show was a usual reaction format where television stole viral clips from the internet to react to them for their show in an attempt to lure in viewers who enjoyed viral material but never watched them online. These shows were actually very prevalent around the world in the mid-2000s. The problem was, nobody watched them, as everyone interested in viral clips would just, shock horror, go onto YouTube. So as you could imagine, Friday Night Download was a failure too. But unlike Friday Night Games, its first season in 2007 gained enough ratings, albeit barely enough, to commission a second season in 2008. The network was, however, unable to promise the Friday night time slot, so it simply had to be renamed Download. Having Friday night in the title turned out to be their only shot at any kind of viewership, as taking this out of the title effectively killed the show and absolutely nobody watched it. Despite recording 10 episodes in its second season, the show was axed after episode 2. When I contacted the middle panel host of the show looking to see if he had Friday Night Games episodes, he sent me all of his hosting jobs in the mail. When I opened the parcel, everything was in there except, you guessed it, Friday Night Games. Despite my lack of interest in the show Download, all the unaired episodes were featured in the parcel on DVDs, bar one. This meant that I'm potentially one of the only people to own this lost media. It's lost media nobody ever wants or cares about, but hey, it's still lost. I successfully converted all DVDs of the show, except it took me a long time to convert 2 of them because they were badly scratched. But yeah, I somehow found this show. I'm looking to find an obscure TV show uploaded to post them on their channel. The only problem is copyright protection that exists on music featured in the show and also the viral clips featured. The sad reality of this show is that it's just really bad. It's lost media that never needed to be found, but I found it. So that's a win? I guess? What you are looking at is perhaps the most famous unidentified image in internet history. The original undoctored version of this photograph has still to this day never been found. However, as it turns out, the story of the history of this image on the internet is probably more interesting than the origins of this, the Jeff the Killer image. If for some reason you don't already know, this image was constantly included alongside many creepypasta pages for arguably the most well-known of them all, Jeff the Killer. For a while, nobody ever questioned the origins of the image that accompanied it. When people began trying to figure out where this came from, however, that's when things got very fascinating. Now, I'm going to include what I believe to be the most relevant and interesting parts of the search. I'm going to start in the year 2015, when YouTuber Scare Theater interviewed the original writer and creator of the Jeff the Killer creepypasta, Seisur, which is his online name of course. In the interview, he claimed that to create the image he used a white latex mask and big plastic eyes with a rubber substance that simulated blinking. He said that after it was made, 2 or 3 pictures were taken and the rest is history.
The picture was made using a white latex mask and some big plastic eyes with red rubber substance that simulated blinking. There was also a black ring around the eyes that were covering the exposed red eyelid. After it was made, 2 or 3 pictures were taken and posted. The rest is history.
I don't know about you guys, but all that sounded a bit nonchalant and laissez-faire, almost as though he's making it up. He goes on to conveniently say that the pictures that were taken were long gone, and that the mask he used is also long gone. Of course it was. Well, the thing is, sometime later, his original story that many believed was debunked as a complete lie when a YouTube video that was posted in 2007, 1 year before the Jeff the Killer creepypasta was first shared, was found, which of course in it featured the Jeff the Killer image for a frame or two. As this was seemingly a Japanese video, the possibility of the image being of Japanese origin came into play. But the image can even be backdated further than this YouTube video, as 2 years prior in November 2005, it's archived to be on the website payer.cc and was found by a 4chan anon in 2018. In 05, it was posted onto that website by the user Mr. Omega Bolt. When the EXIF data on the image was further analyzed, we were able to see that the image was made using Adobe Photoshop 6.0, a version of the program that was released in 2000. The image name, Pretty Face, was also found in the EXIF data. When searchers continued to comb through the payer.cc website, they found the earlier version of the Jeff the Killer image. It was posted by the user Mr. Malholland in September 2005. The obvious details are the different eyes, far less exaggerated mouth, and less blurriness in the center of the face. There's a third Jeff the Killer image, Green-Eyed Jeff. However, there's no evidence that shows it was found on payer.cc in 2005. In fact, there's no evidence for any website origin at all. It's a flipped version of the original image, and it's generally considered to be a hoax. Just when the community thought they had the original date of this image, more examples of it were found in archives on various Japanese websites in August 2005. However, according to the Lost Media Wiki, its first known appearance actually backdates to July 24th, 2005. An anonymous user posted it on the Japanese media sharing site called fileman.n1e.jp, and accompanying the image was the caption, "The Fear of Summer Nights," followed by its description, "A certain celebrity before plastic surgery." And that's it. No other predating has been found yet for this image. And where it came from? That has never even come close to being discovered. So that's it for now, right? That's where the search has been frozen since then, right? Right? Well, the man who posted the White Powder 2 image all the way back in November 2005 on payer.cc was somehow tracked down on Twitter by the search team for the image. According to him, in mid-2005, a cropped image from a video of a middle-aged Asian woman appeared in Japan. At that point, my face was white. I edited a little in Photoshop to post to payer.cc. After hearing this, things became a little clearer. If you look closely at the image and imagine an OG vlogger and what a heavily edited still would look like from one of their city life vlogs, this could be it. To the left of the face might be the shirts of people walking past behind the person on the street. The video may have been someone holding the camera with their left arm and pointing it downward at their face, but it feels like it was taken from a high quality production rather than an innocent person's perspective video. As remember, this is probably 2005 or earlier. You never know, this could end up being something as simple as a still from a Japanese digital camera commercial.
Let's set the scene here. I'm like 4 or 5 years old watching ABC Kids, it's what we had here in Australia for
for cartoons and kid shows, and all of a sudden, a mysterious kid's scary story show comes on with a very spooky intro. So I watch it and get very confused and slightly scared, but mostly confused. However, it's something that manages to very easily last in my memory though, and I somehow keep getting pictures in my head of what I saw in this episode. Every time I start searching for kid shows I saw when I was younger, all I remember is a kid goes down the wrong water slide at a local swimming pool, and instead of ending up at the bottom of the slide, he ends up in a forest. This was very freaky to me as a young and impressionable kid. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Years and years go by, well, 15 years go by, and after countless attempts to find the show and figure out what the episode is called and where the specific episode is, I finally found it. Or at least, I think I found it. After taking a rest from my computer to prepare for the sensory overload, I returned to my computer and I saw the show. And it was almost exactly how I remembered it since I first saw it. Foodfight was a 2012 American animated film that starred Charlie Sheen and Christopher Lloyd. Oh, and it's also regarded by many people as being the worst animated movie of all time. What people don't know about this film is that it was supposed to be released in the early 2000s. However, the film went horribly over budget as money was poured into things like actors, mascots for the film, and licensing real products for the movie's marketability potential. The original story was that the hard drives of the film, which contained hundreds of hours of animations for scenes, were stolen. This was presumably due to external stakeholders being fed up with the recklessness of the movie's overspending into its budget for the aforementioned meaningless things instead of using the money for the development of the actual movie and its animation. As much as Foodfight being stolen is the far more fascinating and romantic lost media story to go by, the real story turned out to be far less interesting. Everyone interested in lost media would much rather the original 2002 renders of the film to have been stolen, as that would have increased the chances of everyone being able to see it in its original form one day. But the chances of lost media fans alike ever seeing Foodfight became far less likely when the real story is cleared up. Rather than being stolen, Foodfight was deleted intentionally. This was probably due to the filmmakers' realization that they could never produce the film in its original and far better animation style, because of course it went over budget and the original animatics became of no use to them anymore. As many of you likely know, it was eventually produced and released utilizing the remainder of its budget by animating it with insufficient software. The result was an abomination. All that's left of the 2002 version is that edition's theatrical trailer, which demonstrates far better animation that was relevant enough to be acceptable in an animated motion picture for its time. I still wonder if the original animations were backed up somewhere else before the filmmakers deleted them on purpose. We may never know. Also, in case you guys don't already know, the original test animations for the 2002 version of Foodfight have been rendered found. I featured this topic in my recent video, Lost Media You Will Never Ever Find. I know, right? That title aged like a nice cold glass of milk in the hot sun. This was announced as found and uploaded to YouTube literally 1 week after I posted that video. Perfect timing. I wanted to mention it again in this video, as it too was also at one point believed to have been stolen lost media. What makes this discovery even more crazy is the fact that everything that was released recently is literally all of the animations that were completed for the film. Bruh. So everything that was ever made for that 2002 version of Foodfight has pretty much been completely rendered found. The only part of that portion of my video which aged well was this part. I still wonder if the original animations were backed up somewhere else before the filmmakers deleted them on purpose. We may never know. So much for it being lost media you'll never ever find. Some of the most interesting cases of lost media that I've come across since I gained an interest in this many years ago is, believe it or not, cases of lost media that people can only vaguely remember but can't seem to find anywhere. The reason why I'm so interested in this is because I think literally everybody has one. It's usually something people saw on TV as a kid, but they can't seem to remember the name of the show, video game, commercial, or movie. Today I'm going to discuss 2 stories of lost media from people in my comments section, as I figured what better place to start than my own small community in the comments. The first case is from a user DHM420, Blaze It, who commented this on my Mean Girls DS video. When I was a kid, I played this DS game that me and my mum got from Toys R Us. It's your usual pet pet simulator game where you can take care of them and shit like that. But one of the packable characters' names was fuck, which is really strange since it was rated E. Still haven't found out anything about it online, so I just thought I'd mention it here. This fascinated me enough to put it in the video, as I honestly think with enough attention brought to this story, it could become a widespread search in the lost media community online. It's just too interesting to me. A pet simulator game for kids that was rated E where a playable character says fuck? I'd love to find a way to confirm this is real. It reminds me of a Super Famicom game featured on an AVGN review where one of the characters also says the F word. I hope this can catch on in some way, even if it is within a relatively small section of the lost media community. Another interesting lost media case comes from another user in the comments, CoolKid95. He comments, "I'm extremely tired right now, and my memory of this is hazy. I remember seeing a movie when I was little, but I only remember a few seconds of it. It was something along the lines of a bank robber running down a flight of stairs at the bank's entrance and jumping into the back seat of a getaway car. But there's an alien in the back seat. I remembered this for years and my memory of it breaks down. I just know that a bank robber jumps into the getaway car that may have been a taxi and there's an alien in the back seat. Maybe E.T. style alien? I remember the movie as Godfather 2, but obviously it's not that film. I want to say it's just a dream, but most of my memories of this nature are later proven to be real lost media. But I can't find anything about this online. Is it lost? Probably not. I can't find it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it wasn't. But if it's real, I need to see it again. I don't know about you guys, but to me this sounds like some sort of soft drink or big beverage company's commercial that was playing in the advertisement breaks for The Godfather Part 2. The only reason why I'm linking it to that sort of company's advertisement is because they are known for making strange stuff like this. Again, this is another piece of lost media that I'd love the community to get around. It'd be so cool if this became a legitimate search and it was found to be actually real. Again though, despite both of these stories being very interesting and despite me believing these people on both of them, it seems like a long shot to find either of these pieces of lost media in the near future. I am however so fascinated in these comments and I really appreciate you guys for sharing your stories. I'll see you guys in the next commentary vid. For now, peace out guys.